research from 2007 when she talked about an interactive community bulletin board and something else. And we thought that it was interesting because it was almost the same that we were thinking or we were developing. So the most important is when we moved out, well, never before we had access to all the amount of data that we have today. But when we moved out from the computers, we cannot access to that the amount of data. So we suggest to design or develop an interactive channel that gives information to the citizens or tourists in the street. And what we designed and developed? We designed and developed an information point with multimedia content that offers interactive services and not only offers advertisements in the street, also we offer hyperlocal information when you interact with the screens. So I will explain very fast which products we have developed and how we apply the web technologies to these products. The first ICD that we developed was the Smartpoint. The Smartpoint was launched in 2004, 2005, and we have 15 screens or displays in Vic. It's a small town, 100 kilometers from Barcelona, and we have one in Barcelona too, behind the city hall. And basically, this is the display, interactive community display, 3 meters tall, with a structure of galvanized metal. And the first half part, it has what we call analogic advertisement, and the second half part has digital advertising with a 46-inch LCD screen. So we also offer interaction with users with a 3-button control that you can see in the pictures. And at the version in Barcelona, we have some accessibility module. We put some text-to-speech in the screen, and we put some stickers of Braille in the buttons that allows to blind people to interact with our hyperlocal information. The second ICD, super fast, is a click channel. It's the first touchscreen that we really in the product. It's a very iPhone interface design, everybody knows, but it was our first touchscreen product, so it's not really accessible. The first ICD that we developed was in the environment of a research project called SOPAT project. And it was our first ICD, interactive community display, using web technologies. This offers us to do the kind of mashup using Google Maps, YouTube videos, and Flickr pictures. And it works with an airfit identification that permits to personalize the content of the interactive community display depending on the user's profile. And it was not accessible, but it was multilingual. The last interactive community display I will show you is the prototype that we are developing for the Infradis project that my colleagues have presented very well. And it's an evolution of the SOPAT design website. It also integrates Google Maps, YouTube, videos, and Flickr, but we also put an avatar that I think is being developed for Bcontent. And we also are integrating semantics technologies and some Twitter stuff. And the most important thing, well, we are developing this to prove the multimodality architecture from the W3C, and it will be totally accessible for people with disabilities. Blind people will navigate using their voice. There will be a recognition as a service that will recognize the voice of the people that will talk with the screen in the street, and the avatar will read all the content. People that is unable to hear will have the avatar that will talk using sign language, Spanish sign language, and they, using the webcam that will be in the top of the interactive community display, they will interact with the avatar, also talking sign language. We are developing a sign language recognition, so they will interact with the display using sign language. We also have a module of emotion detection, we are trying to comply the WCAG guidelines, and it's also developed over on a touchscreen. It will be available this June. So, well, if you want to know more about this, just send me an email or just follow the website of the Redis project. So, which are the challenges that we are thinking at the MT Factory Research Department? Basically, we want to put all of these services as ubiquitous services and offering this content depending on the context of the users. We are always offering personalized content and recommendations to the users using their users' profiles, basically. And we are thinking how to embed the identification system in the interactive community displays. And we are also thinking about which devices or platforms or protocols will interoperate with our interactive community displays. And in conclusions, very different than all the conclusions, I will ask some questions and I will try to say a kind of response. But first of all, who of the audience would interact with an interactive community display in the street? Who would ask which club or bar would like to go tonight to them? Anyone? Good. Okay, so I will tell to my boss that nobody will interact with interactive community displays in the street. But okay, I will offer some statistics from the ICD that we held in Barcelona. It was a prototype to convince the City Hall that it was interesting to put all the website information of the City Hall in the street. And in the first graphical, we can see all the sessions and consoles that it had in, it was only 2 months, literal square behind the City Hall, not very known. And the second graphical has the time that it was used. And you can see this was a kind of social experiment because we couldn't, well, it was forbidden for us to do marketing about that. But we can see how people went there and just interact with the screen, surprisingly. Which kind of devices should interact with the interactive community displays? Well, we are thinking, obviously, mobile phones or kind of laptops, but thanks to we are using web technologies, we think that all kind of devices that could work browser could interact with our interactive community displays and access to the services that we are offering. What protocols or platforms should interact with our interactive community displays? Basically, as I told, the identification is a very important thing because we are trying to give personalized contents and also giving recommendations using the user's profiles, like Facebook profiles or using FOAP. So the identification is one thing very important that we are thinking. We are also brainstorming how to introduce UCH, the protocol that my colleague Eduardo presented before. We are also thinking in a distributed architecture, some semantics, multi-agents platforms, etc. And very important question, how could we resolve the privacy and ethics issues related with offering this personal content in public spaces like streets, etc. Well, we still don't have a response about this, but right now it depends on the context. For example, we are thinking that if you book a table of a restaurant in the street, maybe the interactive community display could interact with your mobile phone and send the information of the restaurant at your mobile phone and not show it in the middle of the street. And finally, should the accessible technologies be embedded in every interactive community display in the street, or should the users use their own devices and interact with the ICD? Well, it depends also, because maybe some users, like, I don't know, I think Enrique has his own configuration in his mobile phone, so maybe it would be more useful that his mobile phone interact with the interactive community display and just listen with his configured voice and etc. The content. We are also thinking that mobile is good against the privacy, and for example, if the street is very noisy, so it could be difficult to interact with users talking. But for example, for people that is unable to hear, it's useful because the screen is very big and the avatar talking in sign language could communicate better or interact better with the users. And that's all I try to do as fast as possible. So,